What's happening, y'all? Welcome inside the Fantasy Stock Exchange. Bush coming at you solo to talk about 5 must starts at running back and wide receiver, 5 must sits at running back and wide receiver. You guys know the drill by now. It's week 12. I don't got to tell you what we do around here. We've had some news come out throughout this week, some injuries. Guys like AJ Brown going to be out for this week. So a lot of you guys probably looking for some replacements for those players. As always, this is a culmination of the start sit videos that I do throughout the week, as well as the DFS articles that I write for draftsharks.com throughout the week. If you haven't already checked out those and play DFS, go ahead and do that. But before we get into this, if you guys do enjoy this video at any point, please hit the like button, comment any of your thoughts down below, and subscribe to the channel if you are new. We're going to hit the intro, and then we're going to get right into this. So quick announcement before we get into the video, guys. Our website right now is down. We're dealing with some back end stuff. So this week and probably going forward, to be honest, we're going to give away our weekly rankings for free. So if you guys go to the link in the description, it'll link you to a Google Sheet where you can see my weekly rankings, and I'll have Danny upload his there as well. So if you guys are looking for simple start sit questions, you want to just check out the weekly rankings, the link will be in the description, totally free to do so. As a thank you, obviously our website is down. So those of you guys that purchase our weekly rankings won't be able to access them, but you can get them for free down below for this week and probably going forward as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the 5 must start running backs. As you guys can see them on the screen, you guys will see that Javonte Williams is my #1 must start running back on the week. Before the bye week, we saw Javonte Williams outsnap Melvin Gordon for the first time since week 4. And historically, rookie running backs coming off their bye weeks have seen an uptick in their usage known as the post-bye rookie bump, as well as what I've kind of alluded to all season. Rookie running backs generally scale production as the season goes along. We've seen Javonte Williams get more and more productive, more and more comfortable out there, and they might look to make a shift in this backfield coming out of the bye week. I'm not expecting him to erase Melvin Gordon to go away necessarily, but we could see a modest uptick in his usage, similar to his former teammate Michael Carter saw in New York when he came off of his bye week. The Chargers' run defense literally ranks 32nd in DVOA. This is the easiest possible matchup that Javonte Williams could see. So I really like him and Melvin Gordon if you have to start him, as well as plays that I really like at running back this week. Moving on to the second guy on the list is Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders only played 46% of the snaps and ran a route on 39% of Hurts's dropbacks last week in his first game back. Before Sanders got hurt, in week 6 and week 5, he ran 83 and 75% of the snaps respectively. And at that time, they were running the ball at a 42% rate, which was the 11th lowest in the NFL in neutral game scripts. But since then, they've seen a shift in their offensive philosophy since week 7, and they're running at a 47% rate, which is the 5th highest in the league right now. The role that Sanders had back in week 5, week 6, wasn't very valuable, wasn't garnering him a whole lot of touches, but they've since shifted to more of a run-heavy approach on offense. So the role that Sanders had back then is probably a lot more valuable now that they've shifted their offensive philosophy. And of course, the Giants rank 30th in rush defense DVOA as well. So this is a good matchup for Sanders. Also, he's going to be very popular in DFS. For those of you guys that are playing DFS, he's probably going to catch a lot of ownership. So do with that information what you will. Moving on to the number 3 must-start running back. It is actually both Patriots running backs. Now, Ramondre Stevenson and Damian Harris, we really don't know how this backfield split is going to go. Last week, we saw Ramondre Stevenson out-touch Damian Harris for the first time all season, but traditionally, Damian Harris has been the guy all year, and Harris was coming off of an injury. So we have to wait and see kind of how they're going to split up this backfield. I'd imagine it's going to be some kind of split carry situation with Brandon Bolden mixing in on third down. But all we do know is that the Patriots are 7-point home favorites against a depleted Titans offense and Titans team right now without AJ Brown, without Julio Jones, without Derrick Henry. They're probably going to struggle to move the ball on offense themselves. So with the Patriots, you're probably going to get a run-heavy game script, a run-heavy game plan, and a lot of time of possession for the Patriots offense to be able to play ball control, run the ball, end the game pretty early, keep the offense moving, and keep the Titans off the field. So that's probably what's going to happen in that game. So for that reason, I'm willing to start both Ramondre Stevenson and Damian Harris as top 25 running backs because I think the volume will be very high this week. Moving on to the 4th running back on this list, it is Ty Johnson. Ty Johnson, we know, has been consistently involved as a receiving back. He's had a couple 6, 7, 8 target games in recent weeks. Tevin Coleman and him should probably split carries on early downs with Michael Carter now out for the next couple of weeks. But I expect Ty Johnson to be around 60% of the team's routes and dominate that role for this offense. The Texans are home favorites. Zach Wilson may start relying on his receiving backs a little bit more, seeing that the success that Mike White and Joe Flacco had relying on those receiving guys as well. I think Ty Johnson has the better role in this offense. We've seen him be a lot more productive than Tevin Coleman. I just think he's a better running back as well. So if I have to choose between the Jets running backs, I will be going with Ty Johnson because his role is far more important. Now, moving on to the fifth and final must-start running back of the video, it is Rex Burkhead. Rex Burkhead in that same game saw 18 carries last week with the Texans up big against Tennessee. Could see a similar game script against the Jets in this one. The Jets are the single easiest matchup for fantasy running backs in the NFL. They're giving up about 40-50% over expectation fantasy points to the running back position. So they are just giving it away to fantasy running backs. And Rex Burkhead looks to be the primary ball carrier in a positive game script in this one. Of course, I have been dead wrong about the Texans backfield all season. Every time I think it's a David Johnson week or a Mark Ingram week, I'm always wrong. So because I think it's a Rex Burkhead week, maybe it's a David Johnson week. So who the hell knows? But moving on to the sits at the running back position. Now we're going to start with Myles Gaskin. Myles Gaskin has been receiving tremendous usage, but he's coming off of a string of very easy matchups, and this one is not so easy. The Jets, Texans, and Ravens are far easier matchups that he's played in recent weeks. The Panthers are absolutely fierce against the run, allowing 26.4% fantasy points under expectation compared to the average run defense, which is second in the NFL right now among defenses. So Myles Gaskin, despite getting the usage, we're seeing them add running backs. They went out and claimed Phillip Lindsay off of waivers. I don't expect them to make a big impact, but it kind of just shows that they're not fully invested in Myles Gaskin. They're just kind of giving him a workload because he's the only guy healthy. I already talked about how you should be selling Myles Gaskin as well because Malcolm Brown is coming back. Myles Gaskin, not a guy that I'm excited about starting this week in a very tough matchup. Devontae Freeman, kind of similar to Myles Gaskin. Good usage from Devontae Freeman, but Latavius Murray is in his second game back, which should see him probably get a little bit more usage. Plus, we have Lamar Jackson healthy in this game, which obviously will take away some carries from the backfield in general and his overall volume. This matchup is definitely not easy either. The Browns were a top 10 run defense in DVOA last week before allowing DeAndre Swift to run for a 50-plus yard touchdown. Of course, DeAndre Swift is a much better running back than Devontae Freeman. I expect them to be able to contain an average running back like Devontae Freeman. Their primary concern is going to be stopping the run with Lamar Jackson anyway, so I'm not excited about starting Devontae Freeman this week. He will need to score a touchdown in order to be fantasy relevant, in my opinion, because he's not heavily involved in the passing game, and he doesn't get usually more than 15 carries at max. So moving on to the third sit at the running back position, we have D'Onta Foreman. D'Onta Foreman expects to be in a very negative game script, as I kind of talked about with the Patriots guys. With no wide receivers healthy, I'm kind of just expecting this Titans offense to not be able to move the ball very much, probably only score 7, 10, 14 points at most. And in that kind of game script, in that kind of situation, they have the lowest implied point total per Vegas of any team on the main slate this week. So D'Onta Foreman, despite Adrian Peterson getting cut, he might see more work in the rushing game. I'm expecting a very inefficient offense and a very inefficient D'Onta Foreman within that offense. Plus, we had Dontrell Hilliard, who was heavily involved in the passing game last week, and I expect him to cede some work to him as well. So D'Onta Foreman, if you have to start one of these guys, I'd probably go with Hilliard, but I'm probably not excited about starting either of them. Now, I expect Ty Johnson to get most of the work, as I mentioned, for the must starts. So that means Tevin Coleman to me is a must sit. A lot of you guys may have picked him up off your waiver wire, trying to throw him into your lineup or whatever. I'm not messing around with Tevin Coleman. He's a complete, trash can of an actual running back. Plus, his work is going to be split among him and Ty Johnson in a game script that probably favors Ty Johnson's skill set a little bit more than what Tevin Coleman brings to the table. Now, moving on to the fifth and final sit at the running back position is the Falcons running backs, not Cordell Patterson, obviously, but Gallman, Davis, Olsen, whatever one that you think is the starting running back, just don't worry about it. Don't worry about the headache. This is a split backfield in a bad offense. You don't want any pieces of this backfield. So moving from the running back position, let's go on to the wide receivers. And we'll start with the first must-start wide receiver on this list. It is T. Higgins. T. Higgins is, I've kind of talked about this all week, but he's receiving consistent volume in an offense where passing production is basically funneled between him and Jamar Chase, whether it's the red zone targets, the deep targets, the targets in general. These guys are the two engines of this passing game. They get the Steelers defense this week that is much friendlier to pass catchers than they are to running backs after playing a few run funnel defenses in a row where they were able to just rely on Joe Mixon, not throw the ball a whole lot. And Joe Burrow was kind of dealing with some injuries as well. So it kind of makes sense why they were running the ball quite a bit. They were also up in those games, and this is a divisional showdown, so it might be a little bit more of a neutral game script. So T. Higgins, again, hasn't scored a touchdown in 6 games, but the usage is still there. Still a guy I'm willing to throw out as a top 24 wide receiver this week. Number 2 is Elijah Moore. people are going to be scared off of Elijah Moore this week because Zach Wilson's starting. And it's probably the dumbest narrative I've ever heard in my life, because Zach Wilson is a better quarterback than Mike White and Joe Flacco. I don't care what anybody says. Wilson has gotten some experience now starting as a quarterback. He also got to sit out, watch some veteran quarterbacks run the offense. And now Elijah Moore, since Zach Wilson has been out, has established himself as this star young receiver. The Jets offense should be just fine in this game. I have no worries about their ability to move the ball against the Texans. Moore is now officially running the routes, ran 81% of the routes more than Jamison Crowder last week, and he's getting the usage, getting the targets, and being productive on them. So as far as I'm concerned, Elijah Moore is a top 25 wide receiver this week. I don't care that Zach Wilson is starting. I think Zach Wilson is capable enough to get him the ball in space and let him do his thing. The third guy is Chase Claypool. He's been pretty close to like 4 or 5 highlight touchdowns this year. The Bengals are a top 12 matchup in adjusted fantasy points allowed to wide receivers. Targets and usage is still there for Chase Claypool as well. Just a matter of connecting on a big play. Hasn't had that blow up game that we saw from him in his rookie season, but he has been pretty consistent from a volume perspective. So I'm willing to bet on kind of positive regression with Chase Claypool. The fourth guy on the list is Rashad Bateman. Rashad Bateman would have been a smash play last week with Hollywood Brown out, but then of course we had Lamar Jackson ruled out as well with the illness that he was dealing with. With both of these guys back, we've seen Rashad Bateman produce 6-8 targets per game when Hollywood Brown and Lamar Jackson have been on the field. And this could be a potentially high scoring game. Last year, we saw both the Ravens and Browns face off, and it was the highest scoring matchup of the entire season. So I could see a big point total for the Ravens in this one. Rashad Bateman, definitely a big piece of that passing offense. So there's no way he's outside my top 30 wide receivers this week. I'm definitely willing to put him into my flex spot. Number 5 on the list is Marvin Jones. Marvin Jones has a 21% target share, 35% of the Jags air yards in total, and 50% of the team's end zone targets. So he is getting the usage. He's got, number 1B wide receiver type of usage. This offense has just been so bad that they can't generate first downs. They can't generate scoring, and they can't generate offense. The Falcons rank bottom 10 in both run defense and pass defense. So I'm expecting the Jags to be able to move the ball, use James Robinson on early downs, throw the ball to Marvin Jones, Laviska Shenault, Dan Arnold, etc. With Jamal Agnew now out of the offense, maybe they use Laviska Shenault in the role that he was designed to be used for. Maybe that helps the offense in general. Again, maybe I'm grasping at straws with Marvin Jones and the Jags offense, but I think now in an easy matchup with no Jamal Agnew, I'm willing to throw Marvin Jones in at flex as a top 36 wide receiver this week. Now, moving on to the sits at the wide receiver position. My number 1 sit at the week was really hard to come up with because I've kind of bombed the last couple weeks on my number 1 sit. I said Darnell Mooney last week was a number 1 sit, and that definitely didn't work out on the back of the big play and the huge target share that he saw. But Odell Beckham Jr. is my number 1 sit this week. Usage wasn't up to snuff in his first game. Obviously, he signed with the team that week, so I don't want to take away too much from the fact that he only had 23% of the routes before the Rams bye week. He's had a week to get back and get into the swing of things with his new team. But before I put him into my lineup, I want to see it first. I want to see him run 80% of the routes, command 6 to 8 targets or something like that before I'm willing to put him into my lineup, because this Packers defense does rank top 12 in pass defense DVOA. I think he's just too risky right now. That could work out for you, but I'm opting for safer options if I have them. If you have, Jerry Jeudy, Jarvis Landry, Devontae Smith, anybody in that range, I think is probably a little bit safer of a play than a guy like Odell Beckham Jr. Hell, I'd even start some of the guys I mentioned already, Elijah Moore, Marvin Jones, Rashad Bateman over Odell Beckham Jr. this week. Tyler Boyd, the second guy on the list, he saw 8 targets last week, sure, which was good usage out of him, but he hasn't exceeded 50 yards more than once since week 4 when T. Higgins was out against Jacksonville and he had a 100-yard game. His ceiling right now basically is like 40 yards, 50 yards, and a touchdown, and his floor is extremely low. We've seen 2 weeks ago, he had 1 catch for 11 yards against the Browns, and he had 1 catch for 7 yards against Detroit. This is a low floor, low ceiling type of player, which is not a combination that we're excited about. Number 3 on the list is any Tennessee Titans wide receiver. So Des Fitzpatrick, Nick Westbrook-Akeen, whoever, you think is the trendy Tennessee Titans wide receiver, don't start them. I know AJ Brown is out for this game, but somebody's got to catch it is never a narrative that I'm looking to chase. I don't think it ever works out really. And even if somebody does have a big game in this one, you're probably going to guess wrong. And my hunch tells me that the Titans will probably just struggle to pass the ball in general. Nobody will be very productive, not, somebody's going to be productive and we just don't know who yet. I just don't think anybody's going to be productive, and they probably are going to spread the ball around to the running backs and things of that nature. So I'm not messing around with any Tennessee Titans pass catcher in this game, probably any Tennessee Titan in general. I'm not going to be starting anybody except for maybe Dontrell Hilliard in this game. So moving on to the 4th sit of the video is Laviska Shenault. Laviska Shenault, like I said, should be a beneficiary of Jamal Agnew being out for the season. But if it took Jamal Agnew to get injured before Laviska Shenault would get his opportunity, my hopes aren't really high for Laviska Shenault. I need to see it first with him. If he goes out there and I tell you guys to sit him and he produces and he has 10 targets or something like that, then I'm okay kind of buying into Laviska Shenault a little bit more. But this guy hasn't been productive at any point in his NFL career so far. So I need to see it first with him. And maybe they're going to use him more in the slot. Maybe they're going to use him more in a gadget role. That's what he's meant for. That's the type of receiver that he is, but they're just simply not using him in that manner. And until I see that, I'm not going to be willing to put him into my lineup or play him in any kind of DFS situations or anything like that. So the fifth and final set of the video, pretty straightforward, is Tim Patrick. Chargers have been very good against wide receivers in general. I'm not really excited about starting Jerry Jeudy or Cortland Sutton either, but Tim Patrick as the third wide receiver in that offense will definitely be riding my bench if I do have him on my roster. So if you guys did enjoy that video, as I talked about already, please hit the like button. It helps us out. It helps us grow. It lets YouTube know that you like the content and you want more people to see it. While you're at it, hit the subscribe button as well. We're trying to hit as many subscribers as possible, trying to get to 10,000 by the end of the season. Comment any of your thoughts down below as well. Hit the bell notification so that you know when we go live or that when we post a new video as well. It is still Black Friday sales going on right now and Cyber Monday. So go ahead and check out our sponsors, Manscaped, for 25% off site-wide right now. You can use promo code BUSH at checkout for 20% off and free shipping on the Performance Package 4.0. So peace out, guys, and I'll talk to you soon.